have to say, I admire you guys that live in low density traffic areas. You guys in the Midwest. Not sitting behind you guys anymore. Not enough. Give me a green light. Fat boy wants to move. I was wearing this flannel shirt, this protective flannel shirt that I spoke about in a prior episode. And, you know, it's made for the American market, which means it had a big gut in order to fit my longer arms. It had this big old gut because it presumed everybody eats roast beef all day, which isn't a bad presumption. I'm not anti-America or anything, but, you know, it's just a fact. It's a lot of roast beef. But anyway, you know, the thing was ill-fitting, to be quite honest. It was kind of cool for the hot weather, a good in-between in terms of, you know, not wearing anything with any semblance of protection and a full-out jacket, which would just make you fry. So I came across Revit's take on overshirts. These things are, you know, they're more like, they look like overshirts, but they feel more like a light jacket when you put your hands on them. I got the one called the Tracer. It's been out for a little while. The thing's pretty comfortable so far. I mean, it's 90, so you don't want to sit around in anything. Anything but your naked self. We need to get where the traffic is not. We're going to a place called the Elven Forest. That's right, the Elven Forest. How could you not go to a place called the Elven Forest? Oh, the red lights. Oh, the red lights. Oh, seriously, I fantasize about living somewhere in Washington State, near the coast, where it's a little remote. I don't know if that exists. Or anywhere, some winding back road in Mississippi or Appalachia. The barren open roads of Wyoming and North Dakota. Look at me. Look at me. I mean, this is my escape. Coming off a week of work, week of constant leash. You want to unwind. You just want to ride the bike. You don't want to be stopping at red lights, dealing with traffic. You don't want to be sitting in lines. You don't want to be looking at cars. There's no way around it. Look, the next light too. It's like a sick joke. That's right, look at these people. That guy up there is doing like 90 on a back road because he's had enough. He can't take another light. Look at him. So yeah, but I'd recommend this Revit stuff for anybody who's broad in the shoulders and narrow in the waist. If you're broad everywhere, then anything that is American made is going to fit you. No worries. That's the baseline. But if you find yourself with this like flapping midsection, Revit has a couple of solutions. Oh yeah. The only way to get free is to go east. And I'm the only one. Oh, my green arrow going east just got interrupted, so I'm going to be looking at this this Lexus for the next 25 minutes. Looking forward to it. That Lexus, that RX. Woo! It's hard to understand it. I've never seen more of a Camry on stilts in my life. Hello, sir. We'll take your Camry, make it look like a dinosaur. We'll raise it about 3 inches, 2 to 3 inches, and we'll charge you an extra 15 grand. How does that sound? As long as it's a Lexus. It's funny, stereotypes and brands and image. So many people see Lexus as a luxury brand, and that's what they aim for, that's what they are. But when I see Lexus, I think kind of old fart. You don't really like cars, you just want something that works, something that's dependable, but you also want to show people that you can afford something that's more expensive. So to me, a Lexus is really just for being soft and showing, which I won't criticize. You can be soft and show all you want. It's just hard for me to understand. And another one. Olive green Lexus. That's a sport model too. You're really pushing that sucker, aren't you? Any of you guys who own Lexus out there, don't get too sensitive. I know it's preference. Oh, this person doesn't know when they're turning. They don't know whether it's here or there. Dear God. Let's get you out of our way as soon as possible. Speed limit 50, doing 35. Doesn't make any sense, guys. Makes no sense at all. Get rid of you. Oh, it is beautiful out here, isn't it? So the coast transitions into the desert. Palm trees start disappearing. Get the dry plants popping up. The hills aren't so green anymore. Just a few miles. You know, one thing that people haven't mentioned much is a lot of video reviewing the 2018 Softails and the concept, and you know, videos from Harley themselves and videos from other people that are doing reviews. One thing I really haven't heard much about is, you know, the point of the Fat Bob. I know on the surface you could say, well, it's the performance model. It's the model that's meant to do more and have more capability, and that makes perfect sense. But what is it competing with? I think that's a good question. You could say it's competing with nothing, because nothing else is really like it. You know, why is it different than a Ducati, for example? A Ducati Monster in particular. It's been around for ages now. It's also a bike that appreciates style, has a cult following, runs on a twin. A bike that, you know, 10 years after you buy it, it's not going to particularly look old. But it's also a bike that has some performance. Now the Monster's limited, we all know that. It's not the cream of the crop of naked bikes or the super naked bikes that are out there right now. What I'm trying to say is, despite all the upgrades on the Fat Bob, I can't imagine it competing with a Monster. But I have a hard time believing that the Fat Bob could compete with that dynamically, even in its most limited trim. And it just makes you wonder, who are they trying to grab? Why would someone buy a Fat Bob over a Monster? Now, style is clearly one thing. Style is very different. Like I say, the Harley definitely looks more industrial, a little more brutal. And I can see it snagging some buyers, but I see it kind of floating in a precarious situation. That model in particular makes sense because, from what I understand, the prior Fat Bob was the slowest selling Dyna model that was out there, even though it was considered amongst many people who knew what it entailed to be, you know, the best performing one, outside of the Lowrider S, of course. So they weren't taking too much of a risk because, well, they didn't have much to lose in the first place, so put themselves out there. And you know, I was curious what you guys think. You know, what happens when you put a 117 in that? Well, I'll tell you what happens. If you go from 114 to 117, you've lost at least $4,000 unless you're doing the work yourself. That's a big jump, and that's a big number. You're talking over 20K. I mean, I think it's around 20K just for the 114 Fat Bob. You toss another $4,000, and then you do your bars, and before you know it, the thing's a $26,000 bike. Which brings me to my next point about the constant chase. I think I've talked about this in the past, but we're always chasing something with your motorcycle. And in whatever hobby you're into, it's probably the same thing, whether it's cars or drag racing, or if you're flying remote controlled helicopters, or you're master at Pokemon Go. I don't know, whatever you're into. And it's part of being human. But it's really a shame that a lot of people, you know, and I think this may affect people more that have the means to keep upgrading, that may have extra money, because instead of enjoying what they have, instead of adapting to what they have, they're constantly changing either the bike or the setup on their bike, to the point where you wonder if they ever really got to know it. You wonder if they ever really bonded with it in any way. And I'm at that point right now. I just want to settle back and enjoy the Fat Boy. You know, just enjoy it for what it is. Get to know it and just use it. It made some fairly significant changes to it. Just get to enjoy it. I mean, that way you really appreciate a bike for its quirks, because you get to know the quirks. You can also learn how to ride it better. You can use it. People so often talk about limitations of their bikes, but people so often don't even learn how to reach the limitations of their bikes. We'll be back in the track this weekend. I'll try to do some filming for anybody who cares. In riding into the heat, you have to be more mindful of getting ahead of traffic, because it's the best way to keep moving at a decent pace. Another thing, these maps, these center systems and navigation systems they have on bikes, and the phone mounts and everything, I feel like they're just ruining the purity of the experience. There's always someone talking in your ear. I'm always trying to listen to that muffled tone, or the connection's lost. Sometimes you're just gonna ride out there and hope you get to where you want to get to, and if you don't, you'll find a new place. I've come across some of the best roads that way. That and road hunting. For any of you who haven't done that, get on Google Earth and look for roads that look twisty, and zoom in to make sure they're not dirt, because a lot of them are dirt. And well, if you're on a Fat Boy, it's not a good idea. There's something in here that's called the Elven Forest. Let's hope I see an elf. You know, when it comes to Harleys and modifying, I think people really like to make them their own, and I think there's something about making a bike that isn't that dynamic. I think that's part of the win. To really surprise yourself and surprise other people. What people are able to do with the Dyna, that's what's so impressive. It's not the Dyna in itself. The Dyna itself is, well, quite limited, but it's what people are able to pull off. You know, whether it's wheelies or jumping, or just modifying the suspension, putting little fairings on them to make them more versatile, and bags, and getting massive power out of them. And with the newest Softails, I think that's still there. I do. And one of the cool things is still having that cruiser aspect to it, that laid back cruiser aspect, but it'll surprise you with what it can do for a cruiser. And getting back on that Fat Bob, what is it? Is it a cruiser anymore? Or is it a naked bike? With that positioning, with those low handlebars and those mid controls, what is it? Is that a cruiser anymore? I'll tell you what is a big, heavy, nasty slug. It's this thing. That's right, baby. And I love it.